to this issue now, you'll know that Bongos Matigizela, the DA's Western Cape leader, is in a spot of bother around issues to do with whether or not he has a BCom, which is now confirmed that he doesn't have. So it got us thinking, what drives people to fake their qualifications? Is it a matter of ambition without the willingness to put in the work, or is it just desperation? Well, either way, this seems to be happening quite often. We've seen, of course, the likes of Paulo Jordan and the latest incident, as I said, being the Western Cape leader of the DA, Bongos Matigizela. To speak on this, industrial psychologist and career coach Phiona Martin joins me now from Johannesburg. So Phiona, as I say, I mean, the list is endless. You can include people such as Daniel Mtimkulu, who was said to be an engineer, turned out not to be an engineer. Vincent Mdunge, who was the SAPS spokesperson in KwaZulu-Natal, spent time in prison over this issue. Ellen Chabalala, the former SABC board chairperson, and now we're seeing Bongos Matigizela. A broad question, why? What are some of the reasons from your understanding that drive a person to make stuff up and put it on their CV or their profile?
Thank you so much for having me. So I guess broadly speaking, we can look at two main factors or reasons why an individual would be compelled to lie about their qualifications, as in our subject today. So you have certain individual factors, such as a person's personality traits that may lend themselves more to a person engaging in unethical or immoral behavior, so to speak. It could also be that the value system that the person subscribes to might be lenient towards or more flexible towards certain moral standards, and of course how they go about achieving their goals. The other aspect, which I think is also probably equally important, is environmental or situational pressures, right? So you mentioned in your introduction things around desperation. So you find, particularly within an employment situation, people will probably not lie if they feel they can achieve the same outcome through honest means, right? So we know very well that in terms of the job market, credentials are a very important qualifying criteria for roles, and they're ultimately used to screen people or even to qualify or disqualify people for certain positions. We also cannot ignore in the South African context that access to education is disparate, right? Which leads certain people to be at a disadvantage in terms of accessing qualification. And we know that some of the broader implication might mean them not being able to access certain jobs and, of course, being excluded from an economic perspective. So hence their livelihood becomes threatened. So there are various reasons. And I think if we also look at Employment Equity Act, it allows for people to be paid disparately based on qualification. So if there is actually a prestige and often a pay grade, so to speak, that is associated with possessing, particularly your higher level education. So those are some of the contextual pressures that might compel people who might not possess a qualification to falsify that they do.
Sure. So these ones, these cases that are high profiled, sort of grab media attention. But how widespread, as far as you know, is this practice of people just, casually inserting a line that says Thulasizwe Simelane holds an LLB that I don't have?
So yeah, you actually, I was looking at some stats where globally it actually is something that is quite prevalent. In fact, in South Africa, I think it was about last year or so, where there was increasing reported incidences of people falsifying qualification or submitting false qualification. And remember, it's not only qualification, people also lie on their CV about experience. So basically alluding or pretending that you have certain experience that you don't have, which obviously also constitutes dishonesty. So it's something that we are seeing as quite prevalent, something that organizations are obviously trying to flush out. So I guess in the case of the high-profile cases, even in the ordinary cases, which might not necessarily make the news, I guess what comes as a surprise, particularly with the high-profile one, is South Africa has quite, I would call it a rigorous system around the verification of qualifications, right? So it is something that most organizations do. So if you're on the job market and before you are given an offer, there is a very good chance that a company is going to use the system is called MIE to verify your qualifications. So I guess in that instance, where this is missed, my question would be, was it not checked? Because that system will often be able to validate if you actually obtained that qualification from the university that you are claiming to have graduated from.
Is there a sense, Phiona, that when people who perpetrate these acts of fraud, really, when they contemplate, they find that the risks are outweighed by the benefits. I mean, I ask this because as of last year, it is now actually an offense to falsify and claim to have qualifications you don't possess. In terms of the National Qualifications Framework Amendment Act, you can be sentenced to 5 years in prison or have to pay a fine. But it seems people continue to do it. Is it a case of weighing up the risks and the benefits and believing that the benefits outweigh the risks?
Yes, perhaps there could be an element of, hoping to not get found out. And in fact, you do find in some cases people are able to get away sometimes for years without them it being exposed that they do not possess the relevant qualification. So I guess there's an element of that. It could also be that the desperation they experience at that particular time and perhaps threats to their livelihood by, potentially not getting their job could be such that they determine it is better to lie and, perhaps hope for the best, than for them to disclose and potentially miss out the opportunity of getting that job, particularly if you've been experiencing long bouts of unemployment and perhaps you perceive that it is because of your qualification that is acting as a barrier for you accessing certain, good paying jobs, for example.
All right, thank you for your insights there, Phiona Martin, who is an industrial psychologist, and the list is endless. I mean, I was just thinking just now about the likes of Marietta Okamp, who was chief of staff in Tshwane during the time, I think, was it Solim Semang's leadership of that office? Anyway, I may be getting the mayors wrong because the mayors have changed so much, but she was chief of staff. She also was found to have falsified details around her degree, whether or not she holds a degree. So it seems it does happen. And those are the insights that Phiona was giving us as to why people would feel they can get away with it.